Well, hello there. Welcome back to the art room. I'm really glad you could make it today. This week we'll be studying some magnificent sea turtles and how to paint them. And to help us out with that, I've installed a brand new feature here in the art room. It's called aquatic mode. Let me show you. Hey, but don't worry. I think I'm a pretty good swimmer. Whoa, aren't they amazingly beautiful creatures? We'll be doing it in a two-part painting, and it should be easy enough to follow along. So let's get back to the art room so we can begin our turtle painting. Okay, welcome back to the art room for our watercolor turtle painting. Wow, this is going to be a great one. And hang in there. That looks daunting. It looks like it's pretty complicated. I guess it is, but I think if you've been watching and following along with us in the art room, you've got the skills. You've got the mad skills to pull this off, we're hoping. So here we go. I've got a couple of brushes, my trusty watercolor set. Using my Sumi brush from last time, I'm just going to lay down some water with my 3/4 inch bristle brush here. Get my watercolor paper all wet. And I'm going to get some kind of standard blue out here and put some haphazard watery marks, and then in between working in some blobs of turquoise, and that's lovely. I'm just going to let that bleed and keep it nice and wet. So with a piece of saran wrap, ask mom or ask anybody, or hopefully you've got some yourself lying around the house. Even a plastic bag would probably be okay. I'm going to lay it on top of that wet watercolor paper and try to arrange a pleasing, sort of a wavy looking shape image. And I'm just going to let that dry for a couple hours, and when I peel it back, wow, I got a wonderful surface that really does kind of give you the illusion of maybe a watery background. So let's get right into our turtle with a head shape, kind of a potato. And I'm going to give him a little bit of a pointed beak too, and then adding on to the neck and then sweeping down his shell. You'll notice I'm not putting the turtle right exactly in the middle of the paper. I wanted it to be a little bit more interesting and kind of skew it off to, in our case, the right-hand side. So just taking it step by step and slowly, even though this is 8x speed you're looking at right here. So imagine how long it takes me to do some of these things, but it makes it a lot more interesting if you can watch it all come together so nicely, so quickly. So adding on his flippers. Amazing how much they resemble bird wings, when I was drawing this. And then some back flippers. They're very much tinier. And I'm just refining my pencil drawing here little by little. Making some erasures, and let's put the eye right in there, and then the suggestion of another eye, and his turtle beak really has kind of a eagle kind of a look there for a second, doesn't it? Yeah, so down around his flippers and across the bottom of his shell here, there's a little bit of a mark there that kind of differentiates that middle part of his shell. And then changing my mind a little bit on that left flipper, and just refining and working, starting off pretty light. Let's kind of clarify where the eye goes. And once again, thinking it through, taking your time, erase when you want to. I'm going to get out my water paint set here, but before I do, I think I'm going to put a few more other details in here that might be helpful later on as we begin to paint. So there's kind of a cool little ridge around the side of the turtle shell, and then we'll make some of these really beautiful marks that he has on the side of his head here that we will be working with later, and thinking to what happens next with a watercolor wash. So now that I've got a good place to put my watercolors into. I'm going to lay down some clear water and add a brownish, orangish mixture. It's real light, it's real runny, but you'll notice right away I get some kind of solidity to our turtle and where he's going to be and what we're going to do next. And that's kind of the key to having a plan of, okay, what do I do next with this? So add a little yellow to his bottom of his shell and the side of his face, and into the shell too. Love the color of the turtle shell, and it turns out great at the end here. You'll love it. Really that turtle shell look. So with some straight black, now that everything's still wet, I'm going to model the domed part of his shell and just let that blend. Everything's all nice and wet, and I'm just touching down with my Sumi brush again, and letting some of that just blend together in these little segments. They're delicate and they're kind of separate from one another, and I'm just letting that blend in. Let's go over to his face and his head, and we'll add some tone to that. A little dark around his beak. Let's get rid of that in a second. But anyway, I'm going to differentiate these little shapes on his head with my fine line brush. You notice I'm always going back and forth and changing my brush depending on where I am in the drawing. So this kind of spoke that I needed a little bit thinner brush. This is a little bit heavier brush I'm using right here with a little more shading. Going back to my Sumi brush to lift some of it off and spread some of it around. You'll get the hang of it as you stay wet. It's just watercolors are just such a joy when you stay wet, because it's hard to make a big mistake. You can always lift it back off with a drier brush. Love this orange brown tone we're putting in here across the front of his flipper and around the edge marks of his shell. And then up on top with some kind of nice looking bold brownish orange that we're lifting right out of our water paint set and into the face a little. Trying to get an idea of what recedes and what stands out, and that back flipper, his left flipper, is definitely in the shadow, so we try to suggest that. It's a little bit darker tone. We're going to need a dark background fill for our flipper, because in a few minutes we'll be getting out our white acrylic and making those geometric shapes that turtles have on their flippers. So working it in right here with a light wash of black and brown mixed together, and trying to find some patterns to build on. This little flipper here, filling that in mainly with a blackish gray, but it'll get a treatment later in a second with our acrylic paint. Let's go into these end pieces of his shell, bring those out with some black. Trying to stay pretty light, though. It's really a wash. Anything that we put down here at this point we can get rid of just with some clear water. So we're looking pretty good here, I have to say. I hope yours is going okay too. Let's put some darker black in his eye and kind of bring him to life here, and we'll model that around his beak there. Some more brown in around the shell and around his flipper, and let's sort of polish that down. Using my Sumi brush a lot. So at this point here I am with my white acrylic. I'm going to dump a little bit into my little mixing tray, and I've got my fine line liner brush that I'm going to be using here in a minute, and I'll just start trying to get some light projected on these areas that are in the sun. Even though we're underwater at this point, the sun's filtering down through the waves, and it's hitting our turtle and revealing all these beautiful highlights. Working in his geometric pattern on the side of his face there. Love that. I just love the way that looks with the white. And so here I am with my finest lining brush, and I'm trying to, oops, pick that up, trying to nail these bits that we've been underpainting with finally. And now we can actually see the segments of the shell coming together. And back into his eye, hey, let's wake him up there with that highlight. Isn't that amazing? This next part, this is actually 20x speed I'm doing here. Can you imagine? 20 times. But these little geometric segments on his flipper take that long to do. And so take your time. I can see you putting in a couple of days work on this at least. And here we are again at 20x doing these segments on his flipper in white. This is white acrylic, by the way. If you have it, use it. You might have trouble with your white watercolor paint doing that. You know, and sometimes even down in the basement, you might have a little container of like white house paint, or you know, even ceiling paint, anything like that that's acrylic. Hey, I use that all the time when I run out. Just take a little dollop of white acrylic paint and you'll be good to go. So anyway, here I am back into the left fin again, bringing out some shapes that I saw. That's the cool thing. Once you lay down your first wash, then you'll see these other places that sort of reveal themselves to be shapes you can use and go around. And that's exactly what I'm doing here, just refining some of these shapes. This fin is mostly in shadow, so that's why we're kind of working. Everything's kind of got a muted look to it. The whites aren't very bright on that side. Okay, so let's get a little bit of orange and brown mixed together, and we'll add some more warmth to our shell. Oh, I just love that part. This is a orange and brown mix of my watercolor, and really getting that turtle shell look because of our first black wash. Remember, it's showing through, and we've just got kind of a glaze of color on top of our shell. Take a minute over here on his flipper again to make some patterns that I've sort of forgot about. Let's go back in and see if we can't do something about that. And you know, while I've got these different colors on my brush, I'm always looking around for places that need that color, you know, before I rinse it all out again, start over with a different color. So going back into the flipper, this is all at high speed, of course, and noticing places that just need defining, like the bottom shell. Here's my lining brush, and it's the thinnest brush I have, so I'm adding some of these neat tortoise pronounce that one, turtle shell shapes across his tummy there. And that needs a little extra blue because it's reflecting here. So got a little blue on my brush, a little blue gray. I'm going underneath and kind of remembering, well, we need a little more blue on the bottom here, a little more blue on the bottom of his shell as well there. And blending all that in. Hope you're doing okay. This is a complicated one, sure it is, but stick with this one. I think you can pull it off. Take your time, quit, walk away from it for a few minutes if you have to, come back later, and stick with it if you can. So blue around his eye there a moment ago, and then here I am with my white lining brush. I'm reverting back to that because I noticed something that we needed to do here. Lining in some of the shapes around his beak that I didn't do yet, and under his eye here with a little separate wrinkly shape across the bottom of his beak. Always stopping and taking a look and thinking. So I'm going to let that dry, and then here we are with our colored pencils. Wow, I love this part. And so I'm going to get my favorite colored pencils out here, black and red and some other ones. I can always go back and grab what I need, probably a yellow and an orange. And let's start off with a reddish orange color, and then we revert to our black here. Try not to use too much black, but it's great for bringing out these details. And could I have done this in watercolor? Yeah, probably. Probably could have. I don't know. This is just a method that I really enjoy, and I feel confident with this, with a color pencil at the end. And if you remember back when we did our cardinal a couple of months ago, that was the defining moment, is when we got our colored pencils out. The whole thing just started to really pop because you can get all these little intricate marks in that would be really difficult with your lining brush. So around some of these areas with my black colored pencil, let's do some wrinkles up here, because I've got a plan later to add some more white to them. We're going to add some of these neat wrinkles in his turtleneck. He's got the skin's kind of loose around here, so he's got movement with his flippers. And then across there to make these kind of diamond patterns. It's almost like an elephant skin, I guess. And I'm going around and around, just picking out little different things. You notice these lines I make? They're one of my old college professors always said, never make a straight line. Always, if you have a chance to make a line, make an interesting line, and try to make your lines have some character by pushing down harder sometimes. It'll look more natural if you do. And around his flipper with some more of these wrinkly things we're putting in. There I go, crisscrossing a bit, trying to make them look more natural by dividing the skin up into these kind of neat diamond looking shapes that you end up with, like triangles. All right, so down around the flipper here, I'm always kind of conflicting myself with this flipper. Throughout the whole drawing, I'm kind of going back from black to whiter, and this time I'm seeing that I need black. So here we go, and I'm filling in some of these shapes. Once again, at oh goodness, this is I think 8x speed I'm doing this one at. So just take your time. You'll end up with something great if you do, though. I promise you, you will. And around all these little shapes that are, there's just so many of them, and so many of them to fill in. Some more wrinkles. Sorry, my hand's taking the focus here from the camera for a second. Back into the left flipper, and I'm seeing some places that between my brush strokes that I can use there. And those marks on his left flipper look way too light, so this is a brown colored pencil I've got here, and I'm filling in. At this point, I'm just having so much fun with this thing. I like the way it looks already, and it's just really fun to enhance it at this point, so I hope you get there. Back up in his shell with a black colored pencil, and I'm noticing that I could put these neat directional lines here. They're like just upward strokes, and they all have a direction to them. You notice they're all kind of pointing into the center of the turtle shell. And here I am getting my little pad of paper, so I don't want to disturb what I've already done. It's always a good idea to work with a cover sheet. If you're in doubt, your hand can be moist, or it could disturb some of the drawing you've done. I always have a little piece of paper as my cover sheet. So over on this piece of shell, same treatment. We're making those upward strokes. Sorry about the focus there. We'll get back to it here in a second, but making those lines directional so they all point into the center of the turtle shell if you can. And you'll notice that sometimes even at 8x speed, I pause. And you can imagine how long it took in real time. And it's a good idea to stop and think about what you're doing and take stock of, how it's looking and what to do next. Because, hey, you're the artist. You're not in any hurry. You can spend a week doing this if you want to. But for us, we're cooking on ahead. So around the back of his shell, adding some dark colored pencil to that. Try not to cover up our white lines that we took so much trouble in. That little segment back there, same thing. I'm getting my lines in a directional way that are pointing inside the turtle shell. Up here on top. He's really coming together, don't you think? And a little bit of shading. Just going for that tortoise shell look here. So let's keep going then. I'm going to define this left flipper. I'm not just drawing a outline around it. I'm trying to add some darkness where it needs it, but not to avoid actually drawing an outline around it. Okay, then working into his shell and his wrinkles. Let's go back here to this back flipper. I didn't pay much attention to that. And we'll make a little bit of darkness here so it looks like it's underneath his shell, kind of projecting out, and define his little toes. Do turtles have toes? I don't know. It's kind of got these little bumps that looks like maybe he's got little marks on his flippers. I don't know. We'll have to ask the expert about that. I don't know. Maybe Allison knows. I bet she does. So, hey, with a yellow colored pencil then, I'm going to go up and add some golden tones. I love that bit up in his cheek there. That just really, really brings it out with our yellow. And the sun is coming through the clouds and hitting the water, and we've got kind of this nice golden glow. And I don't like that blue, so I'm going to switch to a different blue. I'm going to project a little bit of blue onto his flippers so that it looks like the blue of the water is tinting that color with a little bit of the reflection there. And back under his shell. This time I'm going to get a brown colored pencil and do a little more warm shading under there. We've got a billion layers of color by now, so wanted to do this. I've been looking forward to this, so I've got my white acrylic brush again, and I'm picking up the wrinkles in our turtle's flipper, and I'm trying to project some white into what I would think would be catching the light, that wrinkly, rubbery skin that he's got. And I'm just trying to lay a little bit of white on top of those wrinkly bits. Let's do these little marks here. Okay, that really, really brings it out, I think. A couple little marks on his neck. Okay. Let's see, how about some right here on his flipper? And, all right, well, okay, so once again, I'm kind of changing my mind on this right flipper here. It's like, okay, am I going to make it black or am I going to make it white? Come on, make up your mind, Mr. Shay, will you? So I think this is the way I'm going to end up leaving it, with that whitish area going across his flipper. And I'm going to do a little, a little different color pupil there. It's almost hard to see what we did there. If you saw it in person, you'd see a little bit better. But into his eye, make it a little more complicated. Okay, So let's tone things up with a little more yellow colored pencil. And I'm still picking out little wrinkly areas that I can highlight. I think back up into a shell with a yellow colored pencil. I'm laying it on its side, as you can see. I want to warm up that shell. Oh yeah, I like that. Okay, let's come over here and do the same thing. That's what it needed. And let's grab a orange colored pencil here too, and see if we can richen that color up as well. Okay, yeah, that's what a tortoise shell ought to look like, I think. Great. And I think this is coming down to the end. Let's do a reddish brownish band of color along the bottom of his shell. And looks like I forgot that one little spot. Okay. So at this point I'm just sort of putzing with it. I don't know. I'm picking out little places that need attention, you know, before I call it done. Okay, I'm calling it done. So, hey, don't forget to put your signature on. Here comes mine again. Yeah, okay, keep it loose. So, wow, let's see if we can't get it untaped from our board here. And hey, I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you had some success with it. Wonderful. Wow, we should be proud of this one. Really good. Okay, and remember what we always say, no matter where you go, no matter what you do, you've got something to be proud of. You're an artist. So stick with it, and we'll see you right back here next time in Mr. Shay's Art Room.